When do we start? 5 minutes. Where's Willie? That's it. Lock them out, Willie. Welcome to a wool grower discussion. We've got some of Australia's finest wool growers in front of us, and it's important that I do point out to you that they are only a part of their business. They have families with them, they have wives, partners, children invested into their business. So they are speaking here today on behalf of their business, which is a family. In every case, it's a family business. We'll do a little introduction brief introduction of who we are. My name's Tim Marweedle. I'm the Managing Director of G. Schneider Australia. I have a connection with every one of these growers, either personally, through family, through buying their wool, and I value my friendship with each and every one of them. I have no sheep. Sorry. Just an intro.
Good afternoon. My name is Tim Murray. I'm a fifth generation wool grower out in Western New South Wales. My family's been there for 160 odd years growing merino wool. And, sorry about that. And I'm, excited to be here. And hopefully Tim will lead us into some question and answers.
Thanks. I'm Don McDonald. I'm a wool grower on a smaller scale than Tim. I'm a wool broker in central New South Wales for the last 35 years and board member on Australian Wool Innovation.
I'm David Rowbottom, first generation superfarm wool grower, farm alongside my wife Susan, who's in the audience. We first purchased our sheep in 1976, 19.5 micron flock, and we've slowly fined them down to now 14 and below. So I'm enjoying the tours around the mills. It's been great. Thank you.
Hello, my name's John Holland, a wool grower from central New South Wales near Dubbo in Australia. Our family have been growing wool for over 100 years in that district, and we run a flock of around 14,000 merinos, cutting about 400 bales of wool per year of around the 19 micron average.
Hello, my name's Grant McAlpine. My wife and family live on a property 140 k's north of Nyngan. We run merino sheep and we've been there for 47 years, and we've just handed it over to the next generation.
Good afternoon, Frank McKillop's my name. We run a family enterprise in Western New South Wales, and I have two sons with their families, and they are in southwest Queensland. Thank you.
We've got a few more in the front row. Everyone wants to have their say today, so it's fantastic.
Good afternoon, my name's Mark Dawson. I actually married into a family partnership that has been going in the same area four generations. And central New South Wales, actually neighbours to Frank, and managing close on 20,000 hectares.
My name is Mike Martin. I am a retired farmer, and here representing my son, who has taken over about 11 years ago. We run 16,000 16 to 18 micron wool. My glass is always full. I am passionate about breeding sustainable merino wool. Our focus is most probably firstly on animal husbandry, to make sure that our animals right through the chain are kept in really good condition, and they are managed on a rangeland operation, and we are very passionate about how we run our sheep. We also have a passion for the way we treat our employees, and I'd like to tell you a little story. About 20 years ago, we employed two girls. They were gay, and they came to us soon after they, both of them were, had been married and had children, and they came to us, and we have a lovely story where they spent 20 years with us. We were able to coach them or be with them through the hard years of the gay marriage debate in Australia, and we just built up a terrific association with them. They were great employees. They their nature around animals was just magnificent, and that is, we just treat them like family. And I can go on, but it's a story that I love to tell.
My name's Simon Hunt. I live in about the middle of New South Wales. I can be traced back to the first fleet that came into Australia, which is 1786, I think it was. Family moved west from there and finally out to where we are now in 1875. We've been basically 100% merino sheep till probably the last 10 years, where we've diverted a bit into farming, crop farming, and that's my story.
My name's Jim McLaughlin. I'm also from the middle of New South Wales. Our family's been farming where we are, grazing sheep and cattle for over 100 years, and we're really passionate about breeding highly profitable, easy care merinos that are easy to look after.
Thanks very much, gentlemen. Climate extremes are a real challenge for farming in Australia, and we'd like to play just a little video which was filmed by Woolmark Company, which Tim and his family and Mike's family were part of. It brings back a little bit of raw emotion for them, but it's the real challenges that they deal with. So we'll just play this short video.
It's definitely the worst drought that I've come across. So I've been managing the property for the last 15 years.
The most challenging thing in my life so far. I hope there's not too many equal to it. It's the fact that we've been feeding now for 15 months, and in that time the price of hay and grain have both doubled, has just made the financial management of the whole thing so much more difficult.
I don't know I don't know how you can describe it in words unless you sort of experience it and live it for as long as we have.
We have run up to 26,000 sheep here at one time, and we're down to 12,000 sheep now, which has dramatically decreased our wool clip. We sort of feed them some daily, some weekly, depending on the mob, and we do this so to make sure we're still producing wool at a time that we want to be producing wool. Even though it's dry and it's hard, we will continue doing that because it's what we do best, it's what we love.
We were probably down to about 10,000 breeders when it rained on Easter Monday of 2019, and we were 100% full feeding all of those sheep. We'd been feeding them for 20 months, and the cost, of course, was horrific, but because we still had all our breeders, or most of our breeders, we were in a position to join the rams straight away and get back into production quickly. In the 2.5 years after it the drought broke, the value of the lambs we marked was 3 times the value of what we spent on feeding. So in other words, it was a good move feeding our sheep and going through all the stress, and it justified what we did because, you know, the sheep values were quite high. That part was worked out well, thank goodness, but it certainly was very stressful. Since 2019, we've had 5 pretty handy seasons in a row, which is unprecedented in my life.
The next one's just around the corner. You know, it'll be dry again at some point. We have learnt so many lessons. A huge learning.
It's a different battle. I mean, the drought is just brutal. We are making these massive efforts to try and maintain our flock. Wool is on a roll as far as being a welcome fibre around the world, and we are just desperate not to upset that balance.
You can feel how difficult it is for these gentlemen and their families, and across the Tim, it's not just that the rain came at the right time. The fact that the land and the animals were able to thrive is largely due to good management. And I think, what Tim and his wife, Jane, and their families did, through those difficult years, I think that put them into good shape. And so Tim, what sort of practices, do you do on your place, where you generally run about 23,000 merino sheep, and we're talking some pretty significant numbers, on about 95,000, 100,000 hectares of land? Tim?
Oh, well, you try and spread your grazing pressure as much as possible, putting in, running lots of polythene pipe and water points, at least 3 or 4 in every paddock. We've obviously put in all those ability to store grain, a lot of silos, hay sheds to store hay for when you need it, buy it when things are good and it's cheaper, and store it. About 80% of all the water we pump is pumped by solar pumps, and it's run around everywhere and pressured so that when the tanks are all full, the pumps shut down, so you're not wasting water. Just generally spread our stock out as much as possible. And you're rewarded there with better wool cuts if you're not overdoing it. Those sort of things.
Yeah, the point he makes is they spend a lot of investment putting multiple water points so that the stock are not congregated in one area. So they're moving freely across such a large parcel of land, giving the land adequate opportunity to recover. It's not an intensive rotation program that you might expect of a regenerative farm, but it's the same result in a completely different environment. So you've got to understand the context of where the farms are, what operation they're running. I'll turn to Frank. You and Rochelle, you run equally as big an operation. I've taken a note here because I know your clip very well. We see Frank come down to the wool sales every year, produced generally about 130,000 kilograms of wool. You're passionate about rejuvenating your land. You've done a lot of work over a long time. Do you want to tell us a little bit?
Yes, just going on what Derek Baker was talking about with our talk just before Smoko. Our area is around about 48,000 hectares. That's New South Wales and Queensland. The main area of that is in Queensland. Our whole district, as in Mark and Grant and whatever, we use a process to reclaim scalded country, and the term they used today was degraded countries. So basically, with overgrazing over the last 200 years in Australia, it's been denuded of vegetation, so the country's absolutely bare. With our enterprise, just with my wife and 2 boys, we've gone in and we've reclaimed that country, approximately 10,000 hectares, and that's taken close to 30 odd years. What we do is we go in there, we have large machines, so we have 26-tonne graders, 250 horsepower. The country's all surveyed, so what we do is we build banks, and basically the banks are 600 mils high, 2 metres wide, and that retains the moisture onto that country. And then as the machine's actually constructing, we're sowing native species into the banks, which is for us is a form of saltbush, and also native grasses as Mitchell grass. And what we're finding now, and it's been proven, is that we're going from 0 ground cover when we do the process, and within 18 months we've got 85% ground cover. And it just gets better and better, so as the time goes by. And in conjunction with that, we've also constructed exclusion fencing, and that's been a hell of a big benefit for us, particularly in Queensland. There's a lot of problems up there with the pressure from wild pigs and wild dogs, and quite a few instances up there without the fence. A mob of scanned ewes of 100% pregnancy scanned. By the end of lambing, they can be back down to 10% with predators eating them or disturbing them. So the fences are constructed, they're roughly 170 centimetres tall. They consist of around about 20 horizontal wires, and every 15 centimetres there's a vertical wire. Post every 6 metres. The costing of the fence is very, very expensive. In Australian dollars, if you have a contractor to clear the fence line, you have a contractor to erect the fence and with the material, it works out around about $11,000 a kilometre. We've put up roughly 150 kilometres of the high fence, and also we've put another 50 kilometres of the 150 centimetre fence. And that's what we're finding is, with the ponding and with the fencing, we don't want to run any more stock than what we do. We just want to be able to run them better. And when we get the dry times, like inevitably what we all do in Western New South Wales, or around the world basically, hopefully we're better prepared for it.
I guess that these exclusion fences are not just about predator control, but it's probably encouraging biodiversity by allowing the native plants and the native wildlife to thrive, and encouraging biodiversity on your place.
That's exactly it. Tim, we're actually having grass species coming back into some of that country, if the rain permits, that people have never seen before. It's been documented over the years, but some of that grasses are coming back, haven't been seen there for 70 years. And that's what we're finding. We're custodians of the land, we all are. Welfare of the livestock and to look after the land. We have a good future to be able to pass on to the next generation. So I've got 2 sons, I've got grandchildren coming along, and we just want to be able to pass that legacy on.
Thanks. Declining sheep numbers are well documented. The forecast sheep production, wool production in Australia this next financial year from July to June is a fall of 10%. And you know, I'll go to Simon, yourself and Rosalie. You've been on your place, as you said, about 150 years. You've got a flock that traces back to the first fleet. But even you are questioning this activity for a couple of reasons. Probably financial reward. There's probably some succession planning concerns. Other farm activities. I'll hand over to you, Simon.
Thanks, Tim. Yes, we've got a very, very pure, well, probably one of the most pure lines of Spanish Merino in Australia. It dates back a long while, as Tim said. It gets complicated, so I won't go into that. I've always been a very, very pure sheep man. We've won a lot of trophies at Sydney Royal Easter Show with our fleeces over the years. And my son now is interested in coming home. He's actually got a very successful business in Sydney, but he still wants to live on the land and raise his children in the bush, which we all do. We all love it. And he said, Dad, we're going to have to make some changes. There's no money in wool. And I said, I know. And he said, well, we're going to have to farm more and cut back. If I'm going to be involved, well, then we're cutting back, which we are. So we probably had a peak of about 7,500 breeders, and we'll probably end up back around 4,000 in the next couple of years. That's how much we're cutting back, and we're going to farming. But I do farm about 5,000 hectares of land. So, yeah, we're basically what we're saving on one side in work transfers over the other side. So work-wise, it's going to make no difference. But it's a bit sad, but that's the way it's going. There's not the money in the wool.
Yeah, succession planning is part of a sustainable practice, and for all of us generally working in a corporate place, it's much more simple to think about the succession planning. You go and employ someone, but you don't employ a family member. You know, it's not that simple. And I know, you know, there wouldn't be a family farm in Australia that has not had difficulties with the succession planning. The value of the asset is fantastic, but sometimes that can create even more problems. John, yourself and Penny, I think you've been through that. Would you like to share your experience about how that went for you, why that was important?
I thought you might ask that question, Tim, so I prepared a few notes, so I'll just have a look at them. My wife Penny and I have 2 sons and a daughter, all married and all interested in agriculture. We started the process approximately 10 years ago by employing a succession planner. Our planner suggested we purchase more land to accommodate the 4 family units. We ended up purchasing more land and proceeded by running separate virtual businesses between the 3 children. This was achieved by having separate overdraft bank accounts. They did separate budgets for the bank, and we also employed the assistance of a business coach. When we decided to separate, it was an expensive process involving our business coach, our accountant, banker, and lawyers. This process took the best part of 5 years. It didn't always proceed as we would have liked it, but our business coach was able to mediate effectively. The split was achieved by dividing land, assets and debt on equal net worth and making sure that Penny and I were financially secure. The whole transition was significantly helped by the development of a wind farm which had been 17 years in the making. We are committed wool growers running around 14,000 merinos with our mixed farming enterprise. With the collapse of the livestock prices last year, wool was our major source of income. We look forward to a bright future in wool industry in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Jim McLaughlin, Jim and Abigail, most of these family businesses have been operating since at least, I think, 1922. I think it's the same as Schneider. So there you go. We've got the same birth date, and I think the McLaughlins probably even a little bit earlier. And I'd imagine when your family first settled there, sheep, that was it. You've diversified a fair bit. Tell us a little bit about, I know you do a fair bit of benchmarking to see where the sheep profitability sits against the others. Jim.
Yeah, that's that's right. We were all sheep originally, merino sheep, and then we've gradually taken on cattle and farming. And going back to the benchmarking, a really well run profitable merino enterprise outdoes anything year in, year out, because the farming can let you down in the dry times, but sheep, you're always sort of getting something. But in our area, there's a lot of young people that are moving away from merinos and more towards the shooting sheep or more farming. So I'd like my son to continue on what we're doing, so I'm trying to breed sheep that are really profitable, so that's not only wool but very fertile, lots of lambs and a good meat carcass, so they're sort of a dual purpose animal. And on the other side, we keep our costs down by breeding a wool that's blowfly resistant, so we use very little chemicals. You don't have to check them the whole time, and they're just an easy animal to look after. And I think if we get that right, we'll keep young people continuing to produce merinos going forward.
Yeah, it's finding a way to encourage the next generation back has been a challenge for the industry for a long time. It's sort of at the crossroads. Mark, yourself and Heather at Kapunda, you've always had a very strong focus on the animal. You've low stress handling of your stock, structure of the sheep. For what reason? What benefit does that give you?
Yeah, Tim, much the same as what Jim just said, I suppose. We transitioned away from a heavy skin sheep, going back quite a while, and we found, we had to do three things. We had to get rid of body wrinkle and get the fibres all growing in one direction, not crossing all over the place, and get the wool white. We didn't want any colour in it. And when that happened, we found we didn't have any blowflies attacking the sheep's body. So if we could take care, if that was taken care of, so there we had a flat skin sheep, and it didn't require mulesing, so we ticked all the boxes.
So you've bred a sheep that suited your environment, suited your management style, and away we go.
They became fun to work with.
Yeah, okay.
And hopefully the next generation thinks so too. And that was a big thing for us, keeping the next generation. I didn't want them to go through what we went through back in the 90s, I suppose, before the wool, the floor price crashed, where we all had real heavy skin sheep, and we spent a lot of time preventing flies attacking them.
Yes. So I mean, what the gentlemen are saying is that it's such a vast country under different circumstances, and we talk about merino sheep, but even within the merino sheep, there's everyone has their own style, everyone's needs, and where Frank is different to where David is, and everyone needs to manage within a business that you can, and that's essentially what you've decided to do, something that suits you.
Yeah, no, for sure, and it's had benefits with longer wool growing quicker, has allowed us to shear every 8 months, which we can do in our area where the seasons don't dictate when we've got to shear, and we can juggle the 8-month shearing around the joining and the lambing. Yeah, that's shearing in February, October, and June. So it's 3 times in 2 years.
That comes at a big cost, I'd imagine. It's something that we probably had to touch on at some point. Shearing costs, availability of staff is a challenge. You know, when people in the city complain that they can't get their coffee on time, you can imagine how difficult it is when you're 100 k's from the nearest town when you're trying to get someone to help you shearing costs? You're shearing more often than probably most people here.
Yeah. No, the costs are there. I suppose the way we look at it, if the wool buyers will pay us to do it, because it just makes the management that much easier, and the sheep are in better condition to join and lamb, and that's a big one, and increase in fertility, and that's increasing the meat side of the game. And
so you look after your animal, and it looks after your bottom line, essentially. So it makes sense, you know, anyone who wants to put these regulations about, you know, ticking boxes about animal welfare, it's what they do, because if a healthy animal is a productive animal. If their animal is not productive, they're not going to be on the same place for 150 years. So it's self-regulating in a sense.
Yeah, for sure.
All we need is the wool prices to get up, and that's all your job. Grant, I know regenerative agriculture, rangeland farming is something that's been important to you. Do you want to take us through a little bit about what you've been doing?
I can follow along the same lines as Frank. A lot of people in the district adopted the same policy to address the rangeland degradation in our area. We did have help from state and federal government funding. Some of it was dollar for dollar, some of it was in kind, and we also had the assistance of the Soil Conservation Services. They basically came out and surveyed the land. They used a laser level mounted on the back of a vehicle, and they drive around and check the levels out, and then all the horseshoe ponds ended up at the same level, and the optimum level to hold the water was 10 centimetres. And where the ground was flat, they just went round in a complete circle and built the bank. And the biodiversity out of that, and what it's provided for the sheep and the lambs, is just incredible. And the health of that land and my animals come before my bank account.
I think in the conversation we were having before, you, and correct me if I'm wrong, you were running a slightly conservative stocking rate, but you're finding that is more productive for you.
Yeah, we're still doing that now. We'd rather run a few less and run them better. You know, we're marking up to 100. My son sent me a text today. We marked 170% of lambs out of twin ewes in the paddock. That's in the western area.
Lambs on the ground is money in the bank, and by having fewer stock, you're having more lambs.
Yeah, no, it seems to work.
It's a completely different philosophy than what was practiced in Australia in the 1930s or 40s or 50s, I'd assume. Am I right?
Yeah, they just ran them by the numbers, and it took its toll on the landscape.
Yeah. So what we're saying is that the regenerative agriculture has been happening for that long, and you know, I guess what they're trying to say is that they're doing it because it's in the best interest of their land and the best interest of their business. David, we haven't forgotten you. And I guess I can call you the black sheep of this group because you're from a different area and you grow a very different type of wool. But for us, you're very dear to our heart. He produces something that's quite extraordinary. You know, I could say David produces ultrafine wool. And for those who know a little bit about micron, he's produced a fleece of 9.4 micron. That's pretty fine. I don't think it's been any finer. So, David, your circumstances where you are very different. You've got a strong biodiversity story, and your climate, being in western districts of Victoria, you're exposed to the weather coming from the Great Southern Ocean. So tell us a little bit about your experience.
Thank you, Tim. Yeah, I didn't mention before, we're on the south of Victoria, about 10 kilometres from Bass Strait, in a highly productive area, high rainfall. Our neighbours are dairy farmers, fat lamb producers, a lot of beef cattle, and now there's a lot of forestry, very few merinos. When we first bought the sheep, we were told that you couldn't produce superfine wool in our area. Of course, being a bit pig-headed, I tried to prove that wrong and headed in to learn wool classing, undertook training in genetics, and improved the sheep very, very quickly. And because we've done that, our aim was to produce the top wool possible. So we've always been on the top end of the wool market. So the wool industry has been good to us. We haven't really got any complaints. Season-wise, it's usually pretty good. Very, very wet winters. We can have some very dry summers, but generally our seasons are pretty good. This last one's been drier than normal. So, but we've survived okay. We run a moderate stocking rate. We have a lot of trees for shelter. We've planted thousands and thousands of trees. We've improved the fertility of the land considerably, and the shelter from the trees seems to help that. Also helps the well-being of the sheep, and with a moderate stocking rate, even this last season, being drier than normal, we've been quite okay. We have a lot of remote cameras around the farm. We record the wildlife, which there was basically non-existent when we went there. There's dozens of bird species, 2 or 3 quite rare ones. We have land fenced off for a very rare bandicoot, which is surviving. Yeah, we're a little bit different than everyone else. I think it's perhaps a lot better area, but again, we were told you couldn't produce superfine wool in the area, so we're producing probably, I think, the finest in the world, basically by genetic selection of the sheep. That came about by a lot of training and a lot of thought put into the characteristics of the wool that we were dealing with. Anything else?
That's fantastic, David.
Okay.
No, it's a good story. They've got these cameras set up, and some of the wildlife that's walking past and glancing at these cameras, it's quite unique.
Yeah.
I'll go to Don. Don is, as well as being a wool grower, a passionate wool grower, he's also the agent representing these growers. So a grower engages with an agent who takes their wool to the market, and that's when Schneider theoretically turn up and pay a good price for their wool. I'll start running shortly. But we've heard a lot about the importance of sustainability, quality assurance. We heard from the Textile Exchange soon, Authentico and Schneider is obviously really important to us. Don, what does it mean to you? Is it something that you encourage your growers to participate in? Do you think it opens doors? Think it's a good move?
Well, I think as agents for growers, brokers have a responsibility to be engaged in what the pipeline is saying, and that's the reason we're here. I know by yesterday afternoon we were all fairly footsore, but on this trip we've had 3 days visiting mills, 2 in Turkey and 2 days here. I think the common theme that a lot of the growers here will take away is they've got a far greater understanding of what the investment by the pipeline in processing their wool, the work and the dedication that goes into it. So we can go home and sort of multiply the word that the pipeline is looking for greater, call it transparency, validation, and integrity. So we have worked with, we've got about 1,000 wool growers in our company, ranging from, so obviously some very small ones to some very large ones. But the common theme that we have is that we were the first wool broker in Australia to make compliance to the National Wool Declaration a condition of sale. So for 6 years now, our catalogues have been 100% declared, so the buyers of the wool have knowledge of dark fibre, contamination, crutching status, mulesing status, status of use of analgesia and anaesthetic. And we think that's just a given to pass that information on. Interestingly, in Australia, as we speak, there's debate going around about how the wool clip can get a declaration rate above about 70%. So we just try and work with giving our customers as much information as possible so that they can at least give 100% of competition. It's been a common theme whilst we've been here that the market is reflecting the conditions that we're seeing, and we haven't had anyone try and shoeshine the conditions of the market. They've been very frank and honest and open. So we're sort of, tightening our belts and tough it out. I think as you've seen here today, it's a generational thing, and farmers are by and large here for the long haul, and yes, price does matter, but we'll get through this and be here next year to supply wool when the market really wants it.
Thanks, Don. A couple of things that came up. Chemical use. Obviously, it's something that hasn't been mentioned a lot today, but it's important to know that chemical use is kept to an absolute minimum. One, it's expensive. Two, it's not good for the land, and they're not going to use chemicals for no reason at all. So I know, Jim, it's something that's important to you. Chemical use has always been kept as a minimum.
Yeah, that's right. Since we've changed our merino type, we've gotten right away from the preventative application of chemical that we used to do. And if we get a steamy spring, we just have to drop everything and go and jet all the sheep or put a backline on them. But we don't have those issues anymore. So most of our sheep will go their whole lifetime without having any chemical application, except for maybe an off-shears lice backline application, and that's about it.
Yeah, so like an organic process wouldn't be that far away, but it's just too big a risk to take your production purely down that path, correct?
Yeah, well, we're pretty close to it, so yeah, it's not a big step, and we're lucky we live in a healthy country. We rarely drench, so it is very, very chemical free and very healthy conditions for the animal.
Good. Before we open up any questions, maybe I missed it, but saltbush is something that they're planting a lot of. Maybe Frank, you've been planting saltbush for 30 years or so. It's a native plant. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yes, it's native. It was with the overstocking that was done previously for the 150 odd years. That was one of the bushes that didn't survive the overgrazings, but we're finding we harvest the saltbush seed ourselves, and that's what we plant back into the ponds as we construct them, as in most of us here have done the same process. And that was a part of that ground cover of the 85% over that 15 months. And what we're putting back is naturally there. We're not putting anything back exotic or anything like that. And that's why we're finding the process with the regeneration of the country so exciting, that hopefully we can get it back to maybe a pre-European state before European settlement. And we're very excited about that. It's taken a lot of work and a fair few dollars, but the rewards far outweigh the monetary side of things.
And what do the sheep think of the saltbush?
Tim, they've... what we find is when they start to eat the saltbush, it's time to pull them out of the paddock. It is a drought reserve, but the sign of... It's a good indication for us when we're actually running the stock, if we're mustering. If the livestock are starting to eat the saltbush, it's time to consider either moving them or whatever. It's just a good indication for us how to do it's a part of our management.
Does anyone feel they have something else they want to add before we maybe ask if anyone's got some questions? Don.
I know the industry's been talking about sustainability and regenerative agriculture for a long time without really defining it properly, but I think that one of the best definitions that all of us work by is that we aim to hand our country on in better shape to the next generation than how we received it. And to me, that really describes regenerative agriculture, is that you just continually strive to improve it. And we have these severe droughts, as you saw there, and we all went through that. But you always learn lessons out of that. And in our own instance with our own farm, the lessons we learned out of that is that by maintaining ground cover and locking country up, when the drought broke, the country just responded so quickly and we got back into production so quickly. And so there are times where containment feeding is a must because you have to get the stock off the country and don't let them bear it out. So, you know, we see that every day of the week when we drive around our paddocks and just look at how's the ground cover. That's just what we work by all the time.
Yeah, you're growing grass. Tim.
Just on another note, in our party we have our auctioneer of many years, Ian Sharp. It's about his 55th year of selling wool for us, and I think he has always had our interests at heart, and he's always been a major part, certainly, of my business, and I would just like to acknowledge his presence with the crowd today. Ian?
Yeah, well said. As the buyers, we struggle to keep up with him sometimes. I think he's milked us for a few cents here and there. Are there any questions? I think these guys are looking forward to a spike in the wool market next week, and they can take every bit of credit for it. Well done. Thank you. Yeah. All good?
Okay, thanks for that. Now we're going to go straight to our next session, which is Authentico by Schneider Group. And I'd like to invite Deborah Tricarico. She's our brand manager for Authentico, to lead the way of the session. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. So please allow us just a few seconds to gather everyone who is supposed to speak. Please come over. Thank you. So as you can see, everyone here is from Schneider Group, so we need to regather. Thank you. Thanks, Willie, for the introduction. So hi, everyone. Thanks again to be here. I talk as Schneider, so thank you again. So, will I use this? Sorry. Okay. So, as you know, again, I'm Deborah Tricarico, for those who don't know me, and I'm the Authentico brand manager. For those of you who were here last year, we had a similar session. It's not going to be the same, don't worry, but we had a similar session. And we would like to give you updates of what has happened in 1 year's time. Actually, many things have happened. One of the first things is the logo that has changed, for those of you that remember the old one. So what we have rethought it, and we've also chosen a motto, which is a matter of clarity, because as Schneider and as a consequence as Authentico, we think the first service and the first added value that we can give our customers through our wool, especially our Authentico wool, is clarity. So doing what we are saying we are doing. This is more or less what we are going to talk about. So it's different types of topics regarding Authentico. Again, what it is. Some of you know already, so sorry for being a repetition, but some other don't. So I'm going to be quite quick about it, and so understand what's the added value and how we engage brands and direct clients, spinners, weavers, but growers, of course. You've heard from growers, and growers are, you know, the building bricks of all the Authentico structure. So we really care a lot about them. And then what we have done in 1 year, what we are doing, and what we will do in the future. So again, a matter of clarity. We really believe in this motto because we really believe in what we do. We are vertically integrated in our part of the supply chain, as you can see from the red pieces of the supply chain. We take care of sourcing from Authentico verified farms, and then we have the industrial structure to process that wool into the first processing steps. Many of you have been visiting our plant in Verone as part of the trips for the conference. So now you know what processing wool means. So basically scouring it, washing it, and combing it if needed. So what is Authentico? What does Authentico stand for? So Authentico is a brand by Schneider. And it's a brand that stands for a complete, transparent, verified, traceable and ethical, but also high-quality wool supply chain from farm to garment. This is very essential because what we aim to do with Authentico, one of the things we aim to do with Authentico is to provide the full traceability. Thanks to the fact that we know the growers, we know where the wool comes from, thanks to the fact that we have our sourcing offices in the countries where the wool comes from, and thanks to the fact that we also have the plants, we can really guarantee the traceability down to the farm. So what we created with Authentico is what's called Authentico verification system. So it's the way we guarantee what we say we are giving to you. And it's basically made of 2 parts. One is dedicated to growers, and one is dedicated to the rest of the supply chain, which is actually our direct client and their client down to the brands. Finally, traceability is very important, and so Schneider relies on a digital platform, which is Textile Genesis, to provide the digital traceability. So it's not only saying that we give you traceability, but it's also proving it in a digital way. So let's start from the grower, so the first part of the verification system. Everything sits into the Authentico Integrity Scheme Guidelines. What is it? So this is the first page. Actually, we have gone through, ever since last year, we have gone through a reviewing process. So we have rearranged and reviewed, thanks to the collaboration of NGOs and brands and brokers and growers. We have reviewed some points, and we have released in March the new version, so the last version. What's in the protocol for the growers? So basically, these 5 points are the main points. Of course, there is animal welfare, and animal welfare, as we all know, is very important for wool. What we would like to underline is that all the Authentico wool is mulesing-free. Of course, the animal welfare part goes beyond only the mulesing-free, but also all the Australian Authentico wool is mulesing-free. Of course, there is a part dedicated to land and pasture management. We have talked about land and pasture management a lot during this conference, this first day of conference, and it's very important to keep our soil or grower soil healthy. So one part is dedicated to that. And then, of course, social responsibility. But other than transparency and traceability, which I already mentioned, something very, very important and something distinguishing Authentico from other initiatives, because it's a standard made by the industry, is the quality. So we really care about the quality we source. We do not buy any wool, but we buy wool with certain quality specifications. So something we introduced last year, and that has taken several months of work for us, is the renewal of our Authentico platform. What is the platform? Basically, the platform is a digital tool for growers to start their compliance journey. So it's a portal, an online portal, where the growers can register. They register their farm, they put in a lot of information regarding their farms. So not only information related to sustainability, but also other information about their production, their extensions, other certifications that they might have, their location, every single detail. This is very important to us because this allows us to know each single Authentico farm, and have a lot of information about it. But more than everything, this is the first step for the Authentico accreditation. So they go onto the platform and they do a first step, a self-verification to verify their compliance to the protocol. The platform at the moment is up and running for Australia, New Zealand, and Argentina, which is actually where we have our direct buying offices. But it has been set for South Africa and USA as well, and we are just populating it in these days, in this week. So we have a little bit of news on that. What is the platform benefits? There is benefits for us. We have all the information. There is benefits for growers because they can find constant updates about initiatives that might be in the market. As we have seen, they're very far from, let's say, the end of the supply chain, from brands' initiatives. So whenever there is an initiative, a fund, a regenerative fund, a trophy, or some other initiative, we spread out the information through the platform. So how does the platform work? This summarizes a bit also, which is, let's say, the assurance process for Authentico. So who has today access to the platform? Of course, the growers who put in information regarding their farms, but also their broker or their agent, depending on the country we're talking about, and then us at Schneider. So in the first place, with all the information they put in and thus answering a questionnaire that mirrors the Authentico protocol, they can verify their compliance to the protocol. So this is the self-declaration part. Of course, everything that has been declared goes through a second-party verification, which is operated by either the broker that knows them very well, knows the farm's practices very well, or by someone at Schneider, depending, again, on the country we are talking about. So this is the second-party verification, and if this is successful, these growers will go through a third-party own audit, a third-party verification, receiving an own audit, on-farm audit. This happens to the square roots of those who pass the second-party verification, but something important to say is that if the grower, when putting in the information on the platform, tell us, oh, I have another certification which is actually aligned with the Authentico standards, so such as RWS or Cape Wool, they automatically get the recognition, so they do not need to go through a further fatigue of a non-farm audit. We rely on that certification. So today, where is the Authentico wool coming from? Which countries? Where are the Authentico farms located? So last year, when we met last year, 1 year ago, we had Australia and New Zealand. I'm not going to say only Australia and New Zealand because you know that a lot of wool comes from Australia, so it's still a big a big portion of the Authentico wool. We still have New Zealand, of course, but we also extended to Argentina because, as you might know, Schneider has operations in Argentina. We have directly managed farms. Horacio, my colleague from Argentina, is going to tell you better about that. So, of course, we extended the Authentico certification to those farms and those industrial operations. But we are also expanding in South Africa and the USA. So what happens after the wool leaves the farm, the Authentico farm? The wool gets processed only in 3 plants of Schneider Group. So it goes through, let's say, controlled production through our own sustainable plants and certified plants. The plants that can process the Authentico wool is 3. One is in Italy, what you have seen the other day, Pettinatura di Verrone. The other one is in Argentina, which is called, the company is called Furman. And the other one is Mediterranean Wool Industry, which is our plant in Egypt. What is traceability for Authentico? So, of course, I think it's too reductive to say traceability, it's only, through a platform. Of course, the digital proof of what we're saying through Textile Genesis, it is very, very important. But something that is maybe less evident and less tangible, but is very, very important for us and distinguishes Authentico a bit, is that we have the direct relationship with growers, brokers, and local stakeholders of the country of origin of the wool. We really have it, and how do we have it? It's because our colleagues are in Australia, are in New Zealand, are in Argentina. That's very important. And also, because we have our industrial plants, so let's say that Authentico has 2 SAOLs. One is related to the sustainable sourcing from the farms, and one is related to the sustainable processing. So what does it mean to be an Authentico partner? Of course, everyone can buy Authentico wool and use it in their own garment or yarns or fabrics. But if one wants to be called Authentico partner, which means doing communication, joint communication with Schneider and with Authentico, so declaring they are using Authentico wool into their product, they need to have some they need to follow some little rules. Why we did that? This is because we want that the Authentico values are carried over in the supply chain. So we do not want the Authentico logo and communication and name to end up anywhere. So the rules which I mentioned are very simple. So the company that wants to communicate and to call himself a partner of Authentico need to be, just like Schneider is, implementing the ZDHC roadmap to zero, the zero discharge of hazardous chemicals. We are doing it in all of our plants, not only for wool, but also for cashmere. And they need to have at least an S8000 certification or an ethical code following the S8000 points. Of course, there are rules for branding, and for tags, you can have a 100% Authentico wool, or you can blend it with specific rules, which I'm not going to go through now, but you need to have at least 50% Authentico wool in your product, and the rest of it still needs to be sustainable. So during the last year, you might have heard some noise from our side, so we activated a lot of communication, far way more than when we used to do in the past, because we really want to reach out to the interested parts, which might then be brands or growers or whomever. So we activated our LinkedIn and Instagram, so please follow us. It's under Schneider. We have renewed our website, so you can go on the website anytime. You can click on the Authentico section and you find very clear and detailed information. And of course, if you need more, just feel free to reach out to me and to the rest of the team. We have a communication office. Class is the communication office we are working with, so we are way more active in that sense. where we have been featured also by press, so important newspapers and magazines such as Pan Bianco or Spin-Off or WWD have started talking about Authentico. And this happened particularly starting from last May. Last May, we had a big event in our headquarters in Verone. On 29th of May, we had the honor of hosting many professionals which are active in the sustainable fashion world. And it has been a very good moment, not only to get them to know Authentico better, but also to get them to touch the Authentico production, to see the Authentico production thanks to the plant that we have in Verone. Verone is not only our headquarters, but we also have a plant there. We have gone through on with PT Filati. For the first time, we have been an exhibitor in PT Filati. And we have also done a little corner in partnership with the Marzotto Group. We have launched the Marzotto Group partnership in Milano Unica. We are going on and on, so you're gonna see us, you might have seen us at Filo yesterday. Sorry, I didn't update it. That was yesterday, so it's not a future event. But we had a talk at Filo yesterday, so the yarn exhibition in Milan. We are gonna have a booth in a textile exchange conference in Pasadena in California at the end of October. And we are gonna be present also at ZDHC regional conference. So now I will shut up and pass the word to my colleagues, to the rest of the team. So as I would always say, I'm not the only one working on Authentico, but we rely on our global network, which is around the world. So now I'm gonna give the stage to my colleagues. So we have Michela from Italy, from Pettinatura di Verone, our plant and our headquarters. We have Tim Marvidel, which you just heard from Australia. We have Sherif from our plant in Egypt, and Horacio, the managing director of our company in Argentina. Please, Tim.
Thanks, Deborah. The Schneider company started in Australia in 1922, so in Sydney. So I have quite a privilege to be working in the office that the company originated in 100 years ago. The Authentico brand that Deborah has just been explaining, it actually began in the 1990s when we had one particular market that saw a real benefit in a traceable supply chain for high quality wool. So it began perhaps ahead of its time, and it's sort of lay low for a little while, and look where it's gone now. We have now about 800 farms in Australia certified with Authentico, and that membership base, partnership base, has really been built on the goodwill and trust that I think that the foundation has been built by the family company in Australia for 100 years. I think we've been a reliable company in that I think people trust who we are. They like the relationship with us. And for me, that on-the-ground relationship, it's something that I take quite personal with the wool growers. And I think with Authentico, it's most enjoyable for me to see a platform that is allowing them the opportunity to promote themselves to the brands, because they all have a unique story, and every one of those stories is quite different, obviously. But the global luxury brands are very interested in that, and Authentico is really giving them that platform. Individually, it's very difficult for a grower to be recognised, but having Authentico as the umbrella is really taking that forward. As we've said, we've always wanted to recognise the best practices that are already in place. We don't want to overburden our growers with unnecessary certification. If there's already best practice or legislation in a particular country, we want to recognise that as a given. But one thing that's a little bit different is we're not just a traceability scheme. It's very much a quality assurance program. So the code of practice is a standard that we insist every grower meets. That means that they've prepared their wool to the minimum best standard as set out by the code of practice. Certainly in Australia, that's the way it is. And the classer that has prepared that wool clip needs to be registered. So again, we're recognising that the brands have built, our customers have built their reputation over a long, long time on quality. So we're asking the wool growers to do the same. And it's really this shared interest between everyone within the Authentico supply chain, really to see a profitable industry based on strong demand for sustainable, ethically produced quality wool. And this, Authentico is giving us, I think we have a responsibility to try and close the gap. As you've heard from the growers, their needs are probably quite different to, well, certainly different to what a brand wants, but the philosophy is the same. And we really see it as our responsibility to try and be that bridge to put the two together. And I certainly think events like this are certainly a good step. And I thank those growers in particular, again, for their participation. I think that was, it's been an invaluable contribution. You've heard a lot today about nature-positive farming, regenerative agriculture. You also heard from the farmers that they are doing it. It's not necessarily because we're asking for it, it's because it's in best practice for them. And again, we don't want to reinvent the wheel, so we've certainly taken the lead from the Woolmark Company and AWI and the work that they've done with Farming for the Future. Rather than try and reinvent what our terminology is, we've certainly contributed with Woolmark Company and Farming for the Future, and we've brought brands along to that discussion so that we've got the grower's voice and we've got the brand's voice. So again, we're trying to build that relationship. The auction system is obviously very unique. It's facilitated the exchange of ownership for a long time in Australia. It changes, I don't know, I'd say probably about $50 million Australian dollars worth of wool every single week. It's transparent, it's lively, but at the same time, we're recognising that the consumer is becoming more interested in who they're dealing with, what they're buying, how it was grown, and Authentico, we think, is putting us in a good position to recognise that. Our team in Australia has both youth and a little bit of experience, but certainly a lot of passion, and we see it as a sort of a combined effort. Companies like Don McDonald and Co. Amongst all of the other brokers, we work closely with them because for us, whilst we love the relationship with the growers, it's impossible for us to have the same relationship that I have with these families, but there's 35,000 wool growers in Australia, more or less. So our cooperation with the broker is essential, and we will only ever take them along that journey. And thank you again, Don, for bringing the growers along.
Thank you, team. I give the word to Sheriff.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sharif Shusha from Egypt. I would like to thank everybody who was with us in the last few days and today. And it's really an honor to be with you guys all. And Mediterranean Wool Industries is one of the three Schneider's group plants processing Authentico wool. We are located in Egypt, which is a strategic link between Authentico wool from Australia and New Zealand, as well as South Africa, and clients in the European market, which we are mainly serving. Our capacity of comping and carbonizing, we do wool tops from 17.5 micron up to 30 microns, 4,500 tons per year. And we are the only Authentico carbonized wool and oils line with 1 million tons per year. We are certified RWS and GOTS and implementing ZDHC roadmap to zero, which is a journey of continuous improvement from everybody in the mill. And the quality paramount, which is really brings an effort down to each processing details with the full support of our Italian colleagues who are really supporting us a lot in our operation and managed to bring our staff who are really young to do a good job with always a collaboration with our Italian people. And we have been the pleasure to receive wool growers at MWI, as you've seen. And I believe it was a unique experience for all of them to see what they produce in one of the mills, operation-wise, and we had the honor to have them. And we always welcome people, growers, to come and visit us. And last, I would like to say, from what I've seen today, I'll use a quote which I like as a fan of one of football teams. You know, we as a Schneider will never walk alone. You know, so this is something which I'm bringing to all of you. You will be with us. You will remain with us, and we will give you all the support. Thank you for everybody.
Thank you. So yeah, just wanted to say that we are really happy to host everyone interested in touching the Authentico production, not only in the Pettinatura di Verona, or our Italian mill, but also in the Egyptian one, and also in the Argentinian one.
Okay, hello everybody. My name is Horacio, I'm Managing Director of Furman. Our company in Argentina is maybe the only different from the group, because we are not only wool traders and processors, but we are also growers. We started as traders and processors, and 15 years ago we started managing our own farming business unit. Well, we have now 18 farms with 100,000 sheep under administration, about 120,000, sorry. First of all, we certified our farms with GOTS and RWS, and a year ago we launched Authentico in all our own production. This is quite unique and makes us be close to the growers, the rest of the growers of the country. We feel, let's say, we live in first person, the same as they live, when we understand many issues about wool producing, like the weather conditions, the regulations, many things that maybe when you have the relationship between supplier and customer is not exactly the same when you are a peer with them. So after certifying all our farms under Authentico certification, we also, through this strong relationship we have with them, we started giving them support to certify and to bring the main standards of the industry to their own farms. So we manage and give them supports with RWS groups, and since this year we started also certifying Authentico with them. Now we have 13 other farms that are not run by us, certified Authentico, and the total volume of wool between our farms and third parties is close to between 600 and 700 tons per year. Regarding the combing mill, well, we have as I said, we started as processors. This combing mill started in the 2000 in Trelew, Patagonia. It's close to the farms. It's in the middle of the wool production center of Argentina. It's again certified GOTS, RWS, CDHC also. And well, we produce all our wool in this company where we export worldwide. actually we have to correct it from 16.5 micron to 30 micron is the average micron we produce. And well, that's are the news from Auténtico from Argentina.
Thank you so much. Give the word to Michela, our Quality Assurance and Sustainability Coordinator.
Yes, hi everybody. I'm really glad to be here. I would like also to make a small introduction of myself. I'm the Quality Assurance and Sustainability Coordinator of Pettinatura di Verrone, but I'm really new inside this new role related to quality. So previously I was the Sustainability Specialist of Pettinatura di Verrone, and I started working here 1 year ago. So I'm really new inside the group. Today I would like to talk about our beautiful Pride and Joy Mill, that is Pettinatura di Verrone, and in which we treat our the finest wool of the group. In fact, we are around 10 microns. We also have a special fibers department in which we process luxurious fibers like cashmere, mohair, guanaco, vicuña, and others, and also special fibers, or maybe I can say special projects related to fibers. We use Pettinatura di Verrone as our core mill also for the special projects. In fact, next week we will take part to the Materials Matter pilot. So we are really excited and enthusiastic to do this pilot with the textile exchange team. And so if you can go out, thank you. Another thing is that as we already said, in our Auténtico mill, we are certified RWS and also GOTS in all of our wool mill, and also we are certified RWS inside our trading mill in the headquarters in Australia and in New Zealand. We decided to obtain the RWS certification because we guarantee the animal welfare and also our traceability and all our chain of custody. And then we obtain the GOTS inside our mill because we have we would like to use only chemical products that are certified, that are biodegradable and plant-based. We also start a good trip. In fact, during this year, I begin this road that it's not already ended yet. And we obtain the level 1 first in Pettinatura di Verrone and then in the other mills, and also in the Schneider headquarters. So our ZDC journey started in Pettinatura di Verrone in October 23, and then in December 23 we obtained it inside the Furman and MWI. But the real big news it's related to Monital, and that is our dairying mill. So I would like to thank you our team in Monital, because they are following us on our social media and our channels. So I would like to say hello to everybody and thank you for your beautiful work that you've done inside our group. So they are the first dairying mill inside the Roadmap to Zero program related to ZDC. And during this year, I also, my work consists only in obtaining and also to implement other certification like the SFA and the Standard 100 by Ecotex. We have the SFA certificate in Pettinatura di Verrone, and we also have it in Monital, and we obtained it in 2020. So they are gold certified. And also in this year, we obtained it inside the Schneider headquarters. For the other certification, the Standard 100, we obtained it in Pettinatura di Verrone, but we already has it in the other wool mill. So by my side, it's all, that's all, and thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michela. So yeah, we have talked a lot about Australia. Auténtico was born in Australia. Schneider was born in Australia. Most of the Auténtico wool comes from Australia, and actually most of the very high quality wool for luxury application comes from Australia. So we have done a bit of research and analysis in the last month to understand where Authentico stands in Australia, and this is what we found out. So first of all, we need a little bit of context. I bet everyone in this room knows about non-mulesing and mulesing and the fact that in Australia there is still mulesing. So it's a fact, don't want to hurt anyone's sensitivity, but we have to give the context. So the mulesed wool is still the major part of the wool coming from Australia. So when we analyze certifications related to non-mulesed wool, we are really talking about a little subset of the whole Australian wool production. It has improved during the years. So if we analyze, again, another bit of context, all this data that you are seeing, they come from a Schneider internal system, which is called Auspro, and they represent the volumes of wool sold through the auctions. So there might be parts missing of direct sales, which we do. We do direct buying from farms, but this is what it represents. But anyway, it is a good portion of what gets through, I guess. So the situation has improved. We have analyzed the last 3 wool seasons. So the wool seasons are from 1st July to the end of following June of the following year. So in the last season, which is the 23-24, which has been closed, we have around 24% of the wool sold being non-mulesed. So Authentico sits with RWS and with other schemes within this little subject. For those of you who are not that familiar with all the definitions about non-mulesed, cis-mulesed, mulesed, I've wrapped up here all the definitions because between mulesed and non-mulesed there is a lot of other kind of transition areas. But in this analysis, we group together mulesed and non-mulesed, cis-mulesed. So let's put ourselves in the little red subset, so the 24% of non-mulesed coming out of Australian auctions, and let's see what happens. So if we analyze all the wool which is non-mulesed or cis-mulesed, I'm going to say non-mulesed just to be quicker, but also cis-mulesed. If we analyze all the wool sold, which is non-mulesed, this is the situation of the different schemes or declaration. So the light gray bar would be all the non-mulesed wool which doesn't have any other certifications. So it's not RWS, it's not sustainable, it's not Authentico. It's a big portion. So the dark red, the Authentico Schneider color bar is of course the Authentico wool, and then we have the RWS and the sustainable green and gold, which is now called sustainable. So the non-mulesed part. So this is the situation. What is the takeaway from this analysis? That of course RWS with Authentico are the best established schemes in non-mulesed wool for Australia. Now, if we take the last season, so the 23-24, and we narrow down the analysis a little bit, we find out something very interesting. So let's put aside the non-mulesed and mulesed. Let's analyze the whole production of Australian wool below 18 microns, so very fine, and below 16 microns, so very, very fine wool for high-end luxury application, which is the bread and butter of Schneider, especially the one processed in Italy and in Egypt. So what we find here is that Authentico is the best established scheme, followed by RWS. In particular, if we analyze the market below 16 microns. So the takeaway here is that, again, Authentico is the best established integrity scheme in Australia for non-mulesed, cis-mulesed, extra fine and fine wool. So we are proud of it. So let's talk a bit about regenerative. I don't want to go through things that we have heard a lot today and probably will hear more, but where does Authentico stand with the regenerative? So first of all, we kick off this program and project. We started thinking, what can we do? How can we act? I mean, we are not a non-profit, we are not agronomists, but we are in the industry, we process, we buy. So where are we? Why should we be wondering about regenerative? First, because as we know, it's a next sustainability challenge. I liked someone saying today that what we call regenerative and all the issues and challenges that we have for regenerative today is exactly what we have had a few years ago with the word sustainable. So we still need to define what it is and how to call it properly. But for sure, we do this for a simple reason, which has come out of different presentations today. We do it to preserve the wool industry, because if we preserve our lands, along with animal welfare and social welfare, of course we preserve the future of the industry we operate in, and that we want to be prosperous in the next centuries. So where are we at? We are analyzing, we are talking to all the stakeholders, brands, NGOs, and so on, to participate and to come together to a clear definition, which is not really there yet. There is a scientific one, but I mean, it's a bit broader. We need to contextualize to wool and sheep farming. We are having conversation with many stakeholders, again, with key brands. For sure, there are some of them who are more advanced in their research, in their investments, so we are collaborating with them. Through the platform, which is the tool that we have seen before, I said that the platform contains a lot of information about the farms, how big they are, what production they have, but we also have the power there to extract which farm have some initiative or some kind of baseline assessment related to regenerative, so we can extract someone who is already doing other things. So for now, we call them Authentico R growers. So who is an Authentico R grower? It's an Authentico grower who's also applying regenerative best practices on their farm. And how do we say if they are or if they are not? Again, as I was saying, through the platform, we can extract those growers who are following other programs related to regenerative. For example, ZQRX, some of them are, who is organic, who has gone through EOV baseline assessment, who is Regen Agri. So at least we have those data and we can extract that. But other than that, we are also working with the key stakeholders, as said, to develop specific questionnaires. What we are seeing from our side, as Tim said, we are the link between the growers and the brands. Not every brands put the same, let's say, emphasis on the same aspects. So we need to do an analysis and a questionnaire which is tailor-made for the end customers, which is the brand. This is what brands call critical path. It's a long way from when we started working on regenerative, beginning of this year, to when a brand can actually have that regenerative wool in their collection. I'm not going to go through all of this, but those of you who understand the timing of the wool supply chains, the seasonality of the wool supply chains from the farms to the auctions, to spinning and weaving, garment manufacturing and distributing to the retailer, to the retail chain, you understand that you need a lot of time. You need to have a plan, and you need to start planning far ahead if you want to have regenerative wool in your collection. It's not off the shelf. It's not like other certification. You need to plan that buying, and you need to buy specific times of the year. So this is very important to understand. It's not a low-hanging fruit, not so far. So you need to plan. Of course, the regenerative in general, not only the Authentico R, has challenges and opportunities. We have seen some of the challenges is basically going from a practice-based to an outcome-based approach, which is difficult, which needs to be defined, to be frameworked. So we are working on that. It's difficult to scale up. It is also expensive to run some analysis. So there is a lot of challenges there. But of course, there is a lot of opportunities. And I think through the conference, we have seen which are the opportunities for the wool industry and for the brand's environmental declarations. So I'm closing with this slide. Something about the future. Where does Authentico want to go in the future? For sure, for us, growers, the wool and the production is the core of what we do. We really believe that we need to restore value to the growers. We have talked a lot about this today, and Authentico really believes in that. In different ways, through the regenerative approach, through different initiatives where we are already involving them. We are expanding already, and we will expand to new countries of origin. Why are we doing that? It's because that reflects the variety of the products that we can offer, and because we believe, the Natural Fiber Connect itself has as its core, really would always say that we want to connect the different pieces of the supply chain and also the different growers from many countries. Authentico is doing that. We would like to learn from different countries and trying to raise the bar. So we will keep working with NGOs and relevant stakeholders, being at the forefront of sustainability and traceability, but also quality. We would always underline that. We will further boost the communication because we are proud of what we do and we want everybody to know. And in the future, why not? We might think of applying the same principle, so the internal production, the full traceability, the animal welfare, to other fibers that Schneider Group sources and processes, for example, cashmere or vicuña. So I thank you, everyone. I'm open for questions, and in the meantime, I thank you all, and I think we will soon have a deserved drink and dinner. Thank you. Everything was really clear. Thank you.
Great. So today has been an incredibly engaging day dedicated to promoting the natural fibers and advancing sustainability in our industry. We had Gunter Paolo really inspire us to innovate. And then we had Baptiste, who dwelled into the importance of understanding and improving the product environmental footprint. I think it's great that we had that conversation started so that we can begin the work to fill those gaps and ensure everybody that what we do and what we do the best leaves a positive impact on the environment. Then we also had discussions on regenerative egg, scaling regenerative egg, and we've highlighted innovative approaches to restoring the system, enhancing the soil, and improving the practices. We dwelled into the material matters, which highlights the importance of certification and how important it is to ensure that they are robust and meaningful and provide true value to both the consumers, the growers, and everyone in the supply chain. The breakouts were also essentials because they help to invaluable to understand the responsible land management, both from the rangeland and the material matters. And Australia's contribution to the wool industry is invaluable. We thank our growers to emphasize the commitment to the sustainability and the quality. The Authentico brand demonstrated how it is really important and how there's a meaning that can be derived if we work together. So we really thank our sponsors who helped us be here together to support us to organize this event. We also thank all our speakers, all our participants for making this day so enriching. So let's have a huge round of applause for each one of us and for everyone who loves animal fibers. Quick notes on the logistics. So we'll have a bus here that will leave for the hotels. So you can go to the hotel, refresh, and then we'll have 2 buses leave for the dinner venue. One will be at 6:45, and then the other will be at 7:15. If you have any questions, you can let us know. Have a great dinner.